Hello, and welcome to Season 2 of Interviewing Aliens, the podcast that delves into the extraordinary lives and beliefs of the members of the Awakening Orientation Department community. I'm your co-host, Geoff Williams, joined today by the ever-insightful Tiffany.
Hello. Happy New Year, everyone.
And a special guest host, Paige.
Hello. Good day.
And we have our very special guest today, Geoff Gallinger. Geoff is not just an author, tarot reader, and self-proclaimed magus, but also a deep thinker and a visionary. His works, ranging from esoterica to journaling in verse, reflect a journey into the cryptic and the mystical. He's a voice for those feeling disenfranchised, offering a sanctuary for open discussion on relationships, religion, politics, and societal issues, all from a place of compassion and understanding. As a Creek Mason, Geoff epitomizes the quest for liminal spaces, those disregarded corners of the world where we can disconnect from the machine and find peace. His ethos is simple yet profound. It's less about what you believe and more about how you interact with others, especially those with differing opinions. Today, we're excited to explore how Geoff's beliefs intertwine with those of the Creek Masons and the AOD community. We'll delve into his concept of the liminal trickster mystic and what the Creek Masons are striving to achieve in a world increasingly polarized and disconnected. Without further ado, Geoff, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great. What a wonderful intro. I recognize pieces of it from things I've written. That was really, really sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, you could probably guess, but I had some help from ChatGPT there.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah, I had it scroll your sites and all your articles and stuff for some tidbits.
That's awesome. I've done, you know what? I've done the same thing with ChatGPT on my own writing. To kind of like, when I was starting the Creek Mason Substack, I couldn't decide what my like themes and styles and stuff were, so I asked Substack to define me to me. And
I love it.
it's like a good use for it. It does a pretty good job at that.
Yeah, I think if you have enough like written material for it to like cannibalize, it can do a pretty good job of allowing you to talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. You might as well learn to partner up.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
So Geoff, how you doing today?
I'm great. It's we're coming up on the last month of the year. I'm told that we'll be releasing this next year though, which is exciting. I'm taking a little break from Nodes in the Net, which is my podcast, just to kind of relax at the end of the season.
Good.
So I'm excited for our episode that we are recording currently, and all of the new episodes that I've been kind of stockpiling to all come out at the same time. That'll be really fun.
Yeah, we're doing something really similar. We're recording a few here in December, but it's just to kind of have a little nest egg of episodes to release.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Like one of the things that I think I'm trying to do with the Creek Masons is prevent the burnout that comes with like capitalist productivity culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially even as like creative people, like we have to. I'm jumping right in. I hope that's okay. But we're like,
Yes, please.
Yeah.
we have to record 1 to 4 TikToks a day if you want to be successful on that platform. Or like Substack is always telling you, record or release an essay of substantial length and quality at least once or twice a week. And Instagram their algorithm will penalize you if you're not releasing every single day. It'll start to suppress your content and show it to fewer people, not just in terms of organic reach, but in terms of the followers you've already acquired. And that's kind of like fucked up. And like it
Yeah.
kind of, makes us the servants of our social media that we're, trying to use to create side hustles or hobbies, or maybe transition into like a full-time sort of gig. But the cool thing about the Creek Masons is that I've got, like, on days when I'm low energy or whatever, which I am typically in December, I've got, JT around, who's like also creating content for the Creek Masons to kind of like pick up the slack. And, just it allows us to follow our own biorhythms a little bit more, for there to be more than one person all sort of collaborating on the same, creative space.
Yeah, Creek Masons are a bit of a legend over there with us.
Yeah,
And there's
absolutely.
going to be a lot of people listening to this that simply don't know what the Creek Masons are. Why don't you tell us all about the Creek Masons?
Ooh, where to start? So I think I mean, like, uh, the episodes that I'm releasing while I am taking this little break are the Creek Mason, like, canonical pieces. It's the essays that are kind of like personal narratives that, excuse me, that explore like the evolution of the term Creek Mason and the evolution of the organization itself. So, like, way back when, maybe 15 years ago, when I was just graduating high school, I built some chairs in the suburban creek by myself, by my house, uh, by myself, out of, like, I don't know, huge rocks, like, big enough that they're not going to move around when you're sitting in them. And, like, I did this over the course of a summer. I was like rolling the rocks, smoking weed a lot, and like, and then I'd like sit on the rock and like journal or something, or watch the water, dapple, watch the dappling shade and the babbling water, like all the sort of like pseudo nature elements of a creek that is bordered on both sides by like people's backyards.
Mhm.
uh, it, it, so that's where it started. And my friend, got back from his like summer vacation and saw the creek and was like, "Oh, you're like a Creek Mason. We should start an Illuminati group and compete with the Freemasons." And and so, like, that's where the origin of the name came from. And then I kind of like sat on it for a long time. I got kind of like paranoid about the whole idea of being in competition with the actual Illuminati during during the time of like my first awakening, like right after college. I had like a little bit of an awakening experience back in like 2012. And it was very much like a red pill kind of awakening. And then in 2020, having had practice for being like isolated and experiencing the like psychedelic loneliness, I kind of hit the ground running when the whole world went into lockdown, and I started like writing daily, and I started like finally publishing stuff. And it was actually like a huge thing for me to reclaim the name Creek Masons from this like place of having abandoned it, because I had developed like paranoid stories around it.
Mhm.
And so the yeah, where we are now is kind of like it's evolved a little bit even since then. But the idea is that we're like an anarchist, egalitarian indie publishing collective. And so like right now, the only people who are like being published under the Creek Masons banner are me and JT. Um, Although like he sort of handles the social side of stuff, and I handle the Substack for now. But the idea is that we're looking for people who want to write about these like liminal trickster mystic ideas, and sort of like, create things that alchemize ourselves, and thereby, alchemize the world. I
Can
think
you
that's
go
what.
into the liminal trickster mystic archetype that you work
Yeah,
with?
yeah. So liminal trickster mystic, it's kind of the name that emerged for me for the subculture that I think that like all of us here on this call for sure belong to, and also people like Jessa Reed. I kind of mapped onto the liminal trickster mystic. Uh, uh, what would you call that? Like matrix, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
People like Duncan Trussell, Connor Habib, Mitch Horowitz, who's been on Nodes in the Net. Noah Lampert, I think, is another really good example. He's also been on Nodes. Um, the uh, the idea behind it is that it's like it's trickstery. It's not the kind of personality that takes itself super seriously. It's self-deprecating, and also it's trickstery in the sense that it doesn't take taboo too seriously, or necessarily like it's a energy, I think, an archetypal energy that kind of arises out of this group of like podcasters and like thinkers, that is very counter to fascism. I think that like anarchy is kind of a trickstery ideal in the sense that like fascism requires you to like very much take everything super seriously. Like
Yeah.
you can't mock the leader in fascism, because it's like it's this the sacred guru that can't be touched. And so if we don't take our very important symbols and values seriously, then we can't maintain our grasp and control over everyone and get them to do exactly what we want at all times, right? So like the trickster archetype is kind of the antidote to the tyrant archetype. And then the mystic idea is kind of like this comes from the Joseph Campbell quote, I think it is, this like where the idea for including the word mystic in the title came to me is the mystic swims in the waters, the or no, it's the psychotic drowns in the waters in which the mystic swims with delight.
Mm.
And
All of that.
like yeah, that's like really meaningful to me because like yeah, I've been accused of swimming occasionally, but you might also say that particularly in like my early and mid 20s, I was barely keeping my head above water. You know what I mean? I was in the realm of the psychotic for sure. I'm diagnosed bipolar. I'm very open about that. Um, and and I think that there is something to the idea that people who are, maybe classified as neurodivergent by the capitalist healthcare system actually have some legitimate insight and specialness to
Yeah,
share
for sure.
with, with like default reality, and maybe like there's a little bit of shamanism or hermetism. There's an ability to see connections between things that are difficult for people who are mired in consensus reality to connect. And then there's kind of an aspect to the Creek Masons, I think, of being a seeker. We do like group meditation fairly regularly, or we talk, Dharma, whether it's Buddhist or yoga or whatever. And then the liminal piece is something that I kind of went out of order here, but the liminal piece of the liminal trickster mystics is something that I've been exploring a lot lately in these canonical Creek Mason pieces that I'm like, I think I already said I'm reading, during this hiatus, this holiday hiatus for Nodes in the Net. And that is liminal. I think that it is it means like on the line. Like the word subliminal means below the line, as in below the level of consciousness, but liminal is kind of that like hypnagogic state in between sleeping and waking, or
Mm-hmm.
the territory that exists between political parties. You know, we've already talked about fascism. I think that either side could potentially be accused of having some fascist impulses if you go far enough to the extremes, but not like all the way far, because you know the anarchists on the far side of the left wing are actually, you know, I think pretty cool. But like I mean, like none of that matters, because the idea with liminality is that you can sort of like flirt with or even maybe find temporary belonging in any of those like categories, any of the binaries that people fit themselves into or get fitted into by society. You can like really immerse yourself in a community and then kind of like maybe feel like it's time to go check out something else. You know, I've it's just now occurring to me, it's kind of like a ADHD hyperfixation thing where like you get really into uh you know, whatever. Like I mean, even like, for example, Jason Louv's podcast Discord, I got really into it and I was like practicing the LBRP daily, and I was, you know, starting to do the middle pillar exercise, and I was following all of Jason's courses. Um, and you know, like getting really into magic. And then like at some point I just had like been around people long enough that I started to notice that they were like really fervently believing in their own thoughts. And I don't know what it is about that, but I just don't, maybe because I'm like I kind of accept that I'm bipolar or something. I don't quite have the ability to trust what I think to be
Yeah.
like the real truth, you know?
That's
It's
heard, man. Heard.
yeah, yeah.
Not all the voices in my head are telling the truth. Come on now.
Right. Yeah. And like what happens to me all the time is I'll you know, part of the liminality too is the liminality between mania and depression. And what'll happen all the time for me is that the where was I going with this? My dog is barking. Let me go take care of that. One
Sure.
second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Paige, did you figure anything out? Did you figure out your mystery?
I did. Hold on. Sorry, I'm chewing. Dice
We
Mage.
can
I
Dice
crossed.
Mage.
I crossed Jeff with
Yeah.
Dice Mage because they
Similar
both have.
energies for sure.
Yes, they have the liminal trickster mystic energy, and
For sure.
yeah,
For
and
sure.
Dice Mage's writing is so beautiful, and it resonated with me in a similar way to Jeff's work. So I understand my confusion, but
Yeah, I do
I
too,
can't
now that you
believe I
say it.
went that long thinking that two separate people were like the same person.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Welcome to the internet.
Welcome
I'm back.
Hello.
You know,
Hey.
Paige, what's really funny is I have a cousin named Paige, and when I first encountered your TikToks, I thought you were her. So there's been a I don't want to say universal, but a shared mistaken identity there.
It's the beautiful part of the internet. You know, instead of getting to know people the normal, quote unquote normal way where you travel inward into the onion, like when you meet people online, you're faced with their core energy. The middle of the onion, they tell you about the most personal stuff, and then we don't even know some of the most basic details about each other, like what we look like and what our names are.
Yeah, you get to know the spirit, and it is strange that you can meet people who share very similar spirit, you know?
Soul family or something.
Or maybe it is just that, you know, LTM archetype.
Yeah, I that's why I wanted to name the LTM stuff that I'm, you know, the liminal trickster mystic stuff that I'm seeing. I wanted to give it an opportunity to like reify itself and become a concrete like subculture, so that we could like, there's got to be people out there who like think as we do and believe as we do, and who are like kind of, you know, on this spectrum. who don't, I mean, like me in 2019, before Midnight Gospel came out, I was so alone.
Oh
I
yeah,
I didn't know anyone who was into the kind of like esoteric stuff that I was into. And then
same.
I found Duncan Trussell through Midnight Gospel and ended up on his, and that's where I met JT. I ended up on Duncan Trussell's Discord, and it just like it clicked, and I like really found like true expression of myself, and I wanted to um create like a lighthouse kind of that might help other people feel a little
Oh,
bit less alone.
that's
Yeah, just
beautiful. Oh my God.
beacon in the dark.
Yes.
That's
Now,
great,
how did that
man.
lead you to the? I know we've kind of went over this. We had the honor to be on Nodes of Net. I don't know, a couple months ago. At what is time? But how did you make your way to the Jessa Reed Awakening OD community?
Via Duncan. I first heard her on the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. And she was kind of like doing her like public persona thing where it wasn't the full woo, but at one point she said like, if you knew the real crazy stuff I believe, like, that we're all reincarnated from Atlantis and stuff. And I was like, wait, what? you know but after that, I kind of maybe forgot about it, didn't look into it as deeply as I could have. And then when I started writing for the Creek Masons like original blog at creekmasons.com, which is still up, I'm just mirroring Substack essays there. The Someone on the DTFH Discord was like, why are you doing this? Like, are you seeking external validation? Are you just trying to like graffiti the walls of the internet and say like, I was here? And I was like, wow, this person's really calling me out. And he was like, this podcast, and it was Awakening Orientation Department, is going to cure you of your need to be understood and to take yourself seriously. And like maybe I was already like, agreeing with all of the criticism this person provided me. So when I like checked out AOD, which is like the version of it, I think the podcast on Patreon has the same name, but I'm talking about the stuff that's like on Spotify,
Yeah.
the like 20-minute like rant kind of episodes or longer.
Hmm.
um like when I encountered those, it was like, I don't know, every time that I spend time with Jessa's material, I just like I it's like the things that I haven't quite yet dared to think are
Hmm.
being explained to me in a way that's like, well, duh, that's the way it is. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
She does have that way about her.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Grounding those like very esoteric, you know, thoughts, just into such a realistic way was the whole reason why I just was like profoundly changed by that material. I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful the way she's able to like uh put together metaphors for these like sort of like new agey concepts that uh that bring them home in such a understandable, easily comprehensible, easily digestible way. It's really helpful, and it's something for sure that I try to do a bit in my own writing, inspired by it, although I wouldn't say that I I hit home runs nearly with the same regularity.
I think that something Jess is really good at, and is like absolutely the reason that person pointed you towards her podcast, is I don't think anybody like slaps the Jesus complex out of you faster than Jessa does. Which is like something
Right.
that everybody goes through at some point in their awakening, like, oh, I gotta save everyone. And then you listen to Jessa and she's like, hey, how about you actually like try and save yourself first?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's a good call. Okay.
And realize that no one else is coming to save you. That
Right.
it's
Yeah.
all you, all this whole thing.
Right. And if nobody's coming to save you, you can't save anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I was listening to Duncan Trussell's new audiobook that he made with Ragu Marcus.
Mm.
And there's a piece towards the end where they play a recording of a Ram Dass talk, of course. And Ram Dass is trying to give these people, it sounded like maybe mid-Trump presidency, so everyone was like really concerned about polarization and demonization of, you know, ideological opponents and stuff like that. And and Ram Dass is saying, you know, don't try to change anyone's opinion, because their opinion is their karma. And you're here to focus on learning the lessons that are brought up by your own karma. And I was like, oh, there's Jessa Reed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're here to learn from our own karma and be supportive of others as they learn from their own. You know.
Right. Yeah, and that is a big part of it. That, like, that community. There's like a dynamic, you know, back and forth pendulum swing. I think for me, as someone who's like liminal, like sometimes I want to belong with the we, and I want to, like, you know, shave my head and join a monastery and, like, you know, fully envelop myself. And then sometimes I kind of want to, like, acknowledge just what's special about me, and
Mhm.
I get pulled away. Or maybe it's even more sinister than that, and I
mm-hmm.
just feel like an alienation or a loneliness or a social anxiety that just, like, pulls me out of believing that anyone could ever actually like me, right?
Right.
And
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and that I think plays off of what you're saying, where it's a a dual responsibility to both belong with the others in your spiritual community and uplift other seekers, and also figure out, you know, what it is about, you know, your own incarnation that is, you know, like
Unique.
your higher self, your true self, your soul, whatever you want to call it, like, picked this body and this karma, you know, for a reason, in order to, you know, do something. So what is it?
Right.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like the same way. Like I constantly go back and forth between like I just want to explore all the things that my mind and my spirit can do, and like I want to get in touch with nature, and I want to join like I want to do all these super spirit. I want to go be in a mountain for a year in silence and like experience, blah blah blah. And then I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm here for the full human experience. I want all of it, the pain, the love, the anger, the excitement, the all of it. I want to experience all of that. And like and then you fall back into your programming and your thoughts of like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. And it's like really the only thing that really matters is that are you a person that you like? And then everything kind of once you start kind of like focusing on that, like I love myself, and like finding that true unconditional love for yourself and giving yourself grace for all of the weird thoughts and feelings and moods and cycles. And like I'm currently struggling with my December transition. Like I know I go into hibernation in this part of the world until I can find a warmer part of the world.
Yeah.
I want to be a snowbird and go, migrate south, where I'm warm, but I'm hibernating, and I'm like trying to give myself grace for like moving into that transition period. But like once you do start finding that love for yourself and the grace for yourself, and you let your intuitive voices, the ones that tell you the truth and not the ones that they're your programmed voices, and all the things that
Mm.
have happened to you. If you Once you kind of quiet those voices, like you start magnetizing so much beauty and love, and the people that are meant to be around you, and the people that you resonate with, and the things that you resonate with, and like magic just starts happening, once you start realizing like, am I who I want to be? And then everything else kind of around you starts changing drastically, and then you have the magical moments of, it may not be in a mountain the Himalayas, but you start having these beautiful magical moments, and
Yeah,
that's the beautiful human part for me.
right. The Himalayas are inside you, wherever you, what's special about the Himalayas,
I think it's great to go there and see it and appreciate it. But like when I think about those moments in my life where I've been somewhere and I just want to stay here forever and take it in forever. Like I'll oftentimes think about, well, at some point in time I'll reincarnate as that tree over there and I'll get to experience this for a really long time. I'll appreciate it for now and go about my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. There is the concept of a householder I learned recently is like very new. I want to say I don't know. Someone probably will be shouting at their speakers right now that I'm like totally wrong in this. But I want to say that the idea of like a householder is only 100 or 200 years old,
Wow.
and for like the vast majority of human history or like spiritual seeker history that we're aware of, which I guess is like since Atlantis, not prior to that, because who knows what it was like over there. But like the most people were in like ashrams or monasteries or these like traditional intentional communities that have like always sprung up in areas where there are people who want to commit to a more spiritual life, and they would extract themselves from the default mores of the community and live a devoted life to just like figuring out the kind of stuff that us here on our various discords um, explore all the time and explore with each other and explore while being a part of families and having jobs and all that stuff. It's like the explosion in like spiritual book publishing and Alan Watts YouTube videos and podcasts and whatever else has created this opportunity for us to like uh kind of like be our own gurus and just like recognize that it's this weird thing that that happens where you realize that all of the conditions of enlightenment uh were always present, like that experience that you have on the Himalayas is like, I think I don't know, I'm not enlightened consistently in any sort of way, but like that experience that I think that you have when you're in like a really beautiful sort of like mystical place is one of like intense present moment awareness and mindfulness of everything that's going on, and you're really focused on where you are and appreciating it and experiencing it fully, and you can do that anywhere, like the sort of the point of
Absolutely.
meditating is yeah, yeah.
I think what you're describing, I look at as the work that was being done in the Piscean age to lead to the Aquarian age, like the point in time where humanity has the ability to, you know, put down that focus on the body and shift it back to the mind kind of thing, you know?
Mm,
Um, yeah, I think in my mind that's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. There is the idea that we've collected the information, we've done the work, we've learned what needs to be done to awaken ourselves and move into this next whatever phase of humanity. And that's being retired, and we're moving into this new time when we have the ability to explore these things. We have the
yeah,
leisure to do it. Not everybody does, but I think it's a slow progression and a much faster progression in the last like 100 years, moving to a point where people have the time to sit down and really think about, what is this existence instead of how am I going to survive.
yeah. If we I mean there is there's a privilege that I feel is necessary to acknowledge for sure. Like especially, in countries like the United States where we have like Chat GPT to do a lot of our work for us. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, there is a lot of luck in the incarnation that I landed with, that allows for this kind of like, Aquarian exploration that you're talking about. Um, I think that it might also be democratizing itself, or like spreading. I
Mm.
think there's a quote, and this is sometimes used in a negative way, like a sort of a doomer thing to say. But the future is here; it's just unevenly applied. And
Mm-hmm.
some people might say that that's like, you know the the truth of that phrase exists in the people who are like, excuse me, the like child slaves who are mining the lithium for the batteries for Teslas
Right.
and
Yeah.
for our phones and stuff. And like that's the kind of future that we can all expect once the technocratic elite, ascend to full on demigodhood with their billions of dollars and armies of AI assistants and whatever else. Or, equally likely, depending on which timeline that you manifest yourself into, perhaps, we all like, I think I've heard it said that today an average, Californian has as many restaurants working for them at any given moment. Like they could eat any number of cuisines, that's like equivalent to like only the kings and queens of the most well-off countries in Europe, in 200, 300 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
And
And you got to
so,
imagine probably better.
right, yeah, probably. I mean, there's been all sorts of advances and stuff.
Right.
And so, like, are we looking at a future where we're all like dejected, subservient, you know stuck under the billionaire's thumbs kind of people? Or are we looking at a future where like what a billionaire is today is just like the commonplace level of, complete detachment from money? It's so much abundance that it no longer becomes I mean, like, billionaires get free shit all the time. it,
Right.
they like they just they've stepped completely outside of the lack mentality and into, uh is that potentially where we might be going? I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels like it sometime.
Not in my future.
No.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely two sides to that, and I'll choose the more optimistic view on it. But there's merit to both.
Yeah.
They're both worth keeping in mind. And,
Yeah.
and I think you're absolutely right. I do think you get to pick, which of those futures you get to move into, and it may take like a lot of work to convince yourself that you're moving in the right direction towards the one you want. But I do think that you get to choose that experience.
Hmm.
Can I pop in here real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I took I took a class. They actually were asking me yesterday in the interview about what was your favorite college class. I took a class called Imagination: How to Make the Future. And it was like a graduate level class that I got to take cuz I was a senior, all about essentially manifestation. How without it being ever overtly said, it's about the way that our imagination is the creative mechanism through which everything around us came to be. And um so a lot of what this professor talked about and showed us was science fiction, and the way that science fiction and the mainstream consumption of science fiction and the way that it has resonated with people has you can see the cause and effect of how that shows up in the world, right? Like what we create in science fiction and what we focus on is us kind of melding our future in a sense, which is, scary to think about just because, think about science fiction and how dystopian it all is. But I think, what you're saying, it's like the creators have an important role in that process, and the consumers, so to speak, have such an important part in that process, because it's all about like, where are we focusing our attention? Where are we focusing our emotional experience? Like, what do we choose to engage with, and like, what stories are we drawn to time after time? And it's kind of wild to think about how, like, I mean, y'all will probably have a better perspective on this than me, but some of the really, really dark themes in mainstream media that have to do with science fiction. I mean, like zombies and Tron and what the hell else. Like, it at this moment, I say it's brought us to have a great fear of technology, and a great, well, not of technology in general, but of AI, and what is that going to become next, right? So I think there's a huge impulse for all of us to focus, or for people to focus their energy on, what is AI going to be doing? What's our future with this? Like, what's next? And it's always worth it to stop and consider, hey, where am I putting my attention? What is the future that I want to create? Where can I find evidence of that in my reality? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm definitely able to find those little tidbits of hope, even, like even the most dystopian of sci-fi has those, bits of humanity and hope in them that remind you, hey, this is just a worst case scenario. The choice really is yours, how this all ends up.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people right now seem to be asking authors to stop writing such doomer propaganda. You know, I see that a lot in the kind of substacks that I follow. The like the narrative crisis, people call it, or the need for a new meta narrative that like uh it's almost like the new thought. I like the way that you phrased it, Paige, that it's like the new thought concepts of um like kind of the mystical community, that like idea that reality creates itself, or that we create reality through our attention, is something that's like, I don't know, there's maybe this is just the liminal trickster mystic sphere, but there definitely does seem to be some like serious intellectual people who recognize that like collectively the sorts of box office movies that everyone becomes obsessed with tend to kind of shape what we think about and what we focus on.
I think we gotta like vote with our wallet on those kinds of things, though. You know, they're not gonna stop producing that kind of content until we stop wanting to consume it. Yeah, I think about like the cyberpunk versus the solar punk kind
Oh
of
yeah.
dichotomy there. Like, I just, instead of focusing so much on the dystopian, I'm moving towards the utopian, and where I'm spending my money and focusing my attention.
Solar punk is so good.
Solar punk is great. Yeah.
Can we get some more solar punk up in here? Because for real, like, I think that's the future. That's what makes me smile in my mind when I think about it.
Some of my favorite, like even like video games that are coming out are like solar punk in theme. Like there's this really great, very simple game that was about like cleaning up after humanity on Earth, like just going through and restoring the land to like a Gaia-esque form. And it was just very zen and fun. And I was like, this is like the thing I want to be focusing on,
Hmm.
cleaning up the mess that we've made, and making a brighter future. I don't want to be focusing on, you know,
The
Yeah.
endless
awful.
spiral staircase into hell,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think through like just doing healing work and shadow work and just recognizing my own bullshit constantly. That's just constantly. I mean, like healing is never ending process. I get that, but like, could we get a break? But it's like my perception of everything around me has completely changed. Like, yes, I know I'm not ignorant to the fact that there's, doom and gloom happening all around us in the world. I absolutely honor that and respect that. But it's just like my immediate surroundings changed drastically just from a shift in perspective. And like,
Mhm.
uh, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's wild how just being able to change your thought processes will change the world around you, and I feel like that's how the change in the world happens. It's just small shifts in individuals. I don't know.
So for me, this is like, it's the cultural understanding with our current, scientific context is you see it, and that is evidence for you to then believe it. But everything about mysticism will show you, everything about nature will show you that the belief comes first. Only when you believe in something will you open the possibility to see the evidence of it.
Right. Yeah, I remember I was on a road trip once, coming back from a protest, and like we had driven to the state capitol, and we were driving back, and the driver was kind of like new to driving, and just super stressed out about how loud the gas was getting. And we're driving through like the middle of nowhere basically, and she's like panicking. I'm not going to make it to another gas station, we're going to die on the side of the road. And it was one of those moments where like I saw it on the horizon before anyone else did, and I think that it's what you're talking about. Like I felt firm in my conviction that we were going to see another gas station, and because I believed that so thoroughly, the vague shape in the distance concretized into the sign of a gas station for me before it did for the people who were like panicking and unable to see through their own fear.
I love that. It's a great little parable. Little real life.
I've been saying it this week. Well, I've been saying, I don't know, a lot this week. When we were talking about like creating our like in-person community, and we're getting ready to go to Orlando in January. This will probably be out around the time that we're all getting together, but we're going to do like a planning retreat in Orlando in January for our in-person community. And it's just like I keep just going back to the thought that like we haven't found the land because we haven't created it yet, because we haven't like put our brains together and said these are all the things that we want. And I really do feel like that does help shape reality and shape our, if we want to call it a simulation, or shape our thing. Like it will materialize when we put our heads together and say these are the things that we want, and just know that it's coming, and have faith in it.
For me, it feels like there's a moment in time in the future where we did all that.
Yep.
We did all of that. And so it can't come now because we haven't had that conversation yet. Like we have to parse it properly.
Yep.
Even though time isn't real and it has already happened, we're still in that before stage, and you can't see something until you create it. Yeah.
Did you say we're in that liminal area?
Absolutely. I feel like I live in that liminal area most of my days.
Arguably, we all are right now.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of talk because, well, there's plenty of narratives that have been spun about it, but we feel a pressure building and a change coming. And so we
Yes.
know, based on our experience of reality on the day-to-day, that there is a shift occurring, and we are in the liminal space between what we know and what we haven't experienced yet.
Yeah, that pressure, it just feels like it just builds every day. And every time that we spend time together, like we just got back from like a trip to Vegas. Like it's just like, oh, this is it. This is the thing. We just need to make it real. So yeah. And Jeff and I were talking before Jeff got on about just like we really would like to create a cohesion between our two communities. I think that it's such a good vibe. I would love to see the partnership grow between our communities and in each other.
Yeah, me and the other Jeff. There's 3 Jeffs involved in this decision. Uh, uh, we were, so JT is like his online name.
He's
He
also a Geoff.
Yeah, he is.
Amazing, incredible.
I know, right? So yeah, I mean, like, 2 days ago, we were on the phone talking about the necessity of collaboration between the Hot Aliens and the Creek Masons. Is it what is, like, what's the name of I've been referring to y'all as the Hot Aliens, which I think sounds pretty flattering, but, like, how do you refer to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I just call us Hask, Hot Alien Summer Camp. I mean, I don't know that we have like an official
Like, what do we call our
name for that
patrons
collective.
or our
Yeah,
aliens? I think it's just the aliens. I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah.
alien school attendees,
Yeah,
maybe.
alien school. But
Well,
yeah.
you're interviewing aliens, so
Mhm.
Yep.
presumably aliens are among you.
Oh, for
Absolutely.
sure. You're one of
You
them.
are
Yeah.
Yeah.
absolutely one of them.
Thanks.
Yeah, but in the spirit of like wanting these two communities to work together, I love your community, man. I
Oh
love the
my
Creek
God,
Masons. I'm
absolutely.
over there all the time, reading what's being written, and chiming in when I feel like I've got something to share. And I feel like that community is such a great little spot for those liminal trickster mystics. And I think a lot of people out there listening will feel like, hey, I am one of those. And I want to give you like a bunch of time right now to just gush about the Creek Masons and recruit because more people need to be over there and experiencing what's happening.
Yeah. Well, wow. I don't know. What is our sales pitch, the Creek Masons? I think I went on a long ramble at the beginning of our show uh today, the beginning of our conversation. Um what else is there to say? I mean, the thing about the Creek Masons, I think, is that uh it's not an extractive economy where like what you might expect from, like, a an organization that belongs within capitalism is that there's, like, a person or an entity or something that, like, interrupts the circularity of the ecosystem. There's a boss or something. There's a someone who takes value out of the rest of the work, the labor that other people are doing, or the natural environment, or whatever else.
Yeah,
The
someone
reason
is
that
hoarding wealth.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
The reason that there's profit is because someone isn't getting what they deserve somewhere, right? Like, that's all profit is necessarily depends on someone getting defrauded. Um and so what's interesting about the Creek Masons is that we're trying to do something, like, different. We're trying to, like, someone a little bit ago described the space between worlds that we're in right now, like, kind of mid-apocalypse, as liminal, and I think that that's a really good way to think about it. Um it's kind of, I sometimes call myself like a doula more than a leader. Like, it's it's a desire to kind of, like, midwife the dying world, or, like, death doula the dying world, and midwife the world that's being
Oh,
born.
amazing.
Hell yeah.
And that's kind of what the Creek Masons are trying to do. We're trying to be like a little miniature, almost self-contained, but not really, because we're trying to attract, all of your wonderful listeners and whoever else is out there in the world, uh, who feels like they belong, and create, like, a circular economy. And what ends up
Yeah.
happening in the Creek Mason server is that, someone will be, like, vulnerably sharing about, some hang up that they have about a job that they're struggling to pass the interview for, or whatever, in one channel. And meanwhile, someone else is sharing their poetry in another channel. And there's something about, and somewhere else people are talking about, how Discord works. But the thing about the Creek Masons is that it, like, all, to me, and maybe this is how all Discords work, but the feeling of it is that each person's contribution is like the contribution of an individual who exists a part of and collaborating with the ecosystem around them.
Yeah.
Um, so like, you know, you're a deer or whatever, you just ate a peach. You have instincts in you that tell you like where to take your shit so that the peach core, you know, lands in a fertile place to grow a new peach tree. I think, and in that way, like nothing is wasted. It's a circular kind of thing. The tree grows, more deers eat peaches. I have no idea whether deers eat peaches. I would definitely do it in this situation. But but the idea is like there's this circularity to it, and I think that that's what's really great about the Creek Masons is it's like this little creative coven where we're all kind of like hyping each other up, and like
Yeah.
a lot of the people in there seem to be human design projectors, and it's definitely like uh, it 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 seems like we're all just kind of like building off of each other's energy in a really nice way. And I think that, you know, if I'm trying to recruit, the idea is like, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to self promote, but I think
Mm.
that the cool thing that we've got going is that it's like a little engine of anarchy, egalitarian, you know, distribution of resources, egalitarian distribution of attention, and you know, like indie publishing. One of the things that we're doing right now, I actually just posted something on Friday, is this Lunar Lunacy project, where, you know, poems from the whole community get posted on the Creek Mason main Substack. And the idea behind that is like, if you contribute to this Lunar Lunacy, we you know, pick a prompt every new moon and we post our poems every full moon. And if you like contribute to that and you're giving good feedback to other people and you're writing good poems yourself, then it's just such a natural transition to start writing for the blog proper. And then, you know, we're looking at, we've got the grand ambitions similar to how Hask has the grand ambitions of an intentional community. We have the grand ambitions of like, you know, publishing you know, like full on books, and sharing the profits between them equally, so that when one writer has like a burst of creativity, they can you know, like publish something, and all the other writers are earning like an egalitarian kind of like equal wage or salary, I guess, at the same time. And it's through this like collaboration of, you know, I provide my art, which is the thing that kind of attracts more liminal trickster mystics to the Creek Mason community. I provide a service which is in uh, in support of the community itself, like running meditation sessions or providing editing for someone else, or what's another good example? I mean, it could really be anything that helps, you know, uplift other people who are in the you know, the ranks of the Adeptus makers. And then there's the kind of like governance piece where we you know, people who publish for the Creek Masons all get an equal say in how revenue is distributed. So you know, like what percentage of the budget goes to our salaries, what percentage of the budget do we want to um, allocate toward hiring a publicist, or like project grants, like if we wanted to, you know, publish, you know, Jeff's book or whatever, like how much money can we throw at him so that he can like hire a, you know, a fancy copy editor from Random House or something like that, and really give the book its best chance, and like, you know, pay off Barnes and Noble the bribes that they need to put it, you know, center stage, you know, like that kind of thing. That's like a real part of publishing and is like necessary, you know, enter it into contests and get it in front of critics and stuff. There's all this stuff that goes into creating a work of words that can be like not only like have this collaborative budgeting process, have each of us kind of like decide democratically like how much we want to devote to that. But also, as a community with many hands, the work is lighter. And so some of that editing can be done by, the wonderful poets that we have on the server already, or um, you know, JT has like an ability with visual art that I completely have, no grasp in, and his strength sort of fills a gap in my resume. And so we create cooler stuff together, And so I think that's the main draw is, or I don't know. At the same time, there's also the draw of just like coming in and hanging out and lurking. I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
like a lot of times there's a focus on like be the doer, be the person making stuff, and contribute and whatever. But like absolutely, the world also needs people who just like are reply guys
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and people who are like just providing the sacred gift of their attention and their energy, like that
Right. Yeah.
can
Patronage
that,
is huge.
right, yeah, the patronage, I mean, is something like that, is life energy.
Yeah.
That attention is life energy, because what else do we have except for a limited number of hours of attention in a human incarnation? And so like giving some of your life energy to like this hour long conversation or something like that creates um like a self-reinforcing feedback loop that allows the people here, these wonderful people that I'm talking to like produce more and to create. It's a wonderful symbiotic thing that I think happens between uh, everyone in
Yeah.
a creative community. And I have a lot of trouble. Like a friend of mine said that you need to love yourself as much as Kanye loves Kanye. Ta- Talking about my like, although this was before he went completely crazy. I don't really follow the news, so if he's like said something horrible, that don't associate me with that. But like, but yeah, that like self-promotion energy does not come naturally to me, and it's very uncomfortable, and probably people can hear that in the way that I'm trying to pitch this. But just come home to your family. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
come come hang out. We'd
You
love to have
guys, if I can jump in real quick here and say I've been in the Creek Mason server for a little while now. I think like over a year at this point, and
you. Mhm.
Um, y'all, I have never found a Discord community that is so thoughtful.
Mm.
Like in a profound way. These people are philosophers. These people are writers and thinkers, and they really do like in this community. There is such a high quality of attention that is afforded to everybody's posts, everybody's poems, everyone's writing. And I've been part of a lot of discords that have really, really scratched that uh, philosophical, intellectual itch in my brain. And y'all, Creek Mason server is astounding. Like,
Absolutely.
if you like to write, if you like to read, if you like poetry or art or exploring metaphysical ideas, this might be an awesome community for you to become part of. Seriously, like if you're looking for like high quality conversation, if you're looking for to really get together and meditate with people and hoping to be part of a greater artist collective, I absolutely recommend Creek Masons. It's very exciting, and they're always Geoff and JT and everybody are always working on some really new, exciting things. It's been super fun and exciting to watch y'all develop this concept. So go check it out for real. I'm vouching for him. Not that you needed me to, but
Yeah, I did
they're
need you to.
awesome.
That was
Yeah.
so wonderful. What a
Well, I want
wonderful.
to I want to jump in on that too, because I've got a little bit of a pitch for Creek Masons as well. And that is that right now in Hask, we are going through Jessa's abundance course that she has. And like something I think about abundance is that we always focus on like financial abundance, and that's like, or like, I guess romantic abundance sometimes as well. But there's all these other kinds of abundance that are out there. And man, Creek Masons is just overflowing with abundance of emotional availability, creative insights, and just the ongoing energy exchanges that are going on in there. And again, even if you're not like actively writing anything, just going in there and providing the energy of reading and consuming is, I mean, that's the reason they're out there writing, we're trying to reach each other and share ideas, and just being a part of that, even if it's just a thumbs up react to something, like that's an energy exchange. And I see that happening constantly in the Creek Masons. And I know that anybody who goes in there and tries to experience are going to see the same thing. And it's a great way to practice, energy exchanging and flowing abundance as well, because you can share that energy you have there in ways that aren't monetary, but just as impactful and just as good at practicing that abundant flowing magic that you're trying to work on.
You can drop your writing in this Discord. You can drop a whole essay and people will actually read it and respond thoughtfully. And, it's so hard to find spaces like that on the internet where people are truly attuned and willing to listen and interested in, consuming and being inspired by each other's art. Seriously. You can get your essays read here, y'all.
Yeah, we want to read them. Yeah,
Well, how can we best share your spaces for, because there's there's the podcast and there's the Discord and there's the Substack. What we can always link everything, of course, in the episode, but just so people can come and check you out.
Yeah, how can people reach you?
Yeah. Well, the Creek Masons is pretty Googleable for the most part. I mean, we're Creek Masons everywhere. Like JT runs the Instagram and the TikTok where it's at Creek Masons. Um, I think, creekmasons.com is another good place. The podcast is called Nodes in the Net, which is also fairly Googleable as long as you add the word podcast at the end. Otherwise, you get a bunch of computer shit. And then, so Nodes in the Net, and probably like the main place you want to go that's like the central hub for everything and has links to all the different places that you might want to explore, including a link for initiating yourself into the Creek Masons and becoming a member of the Discord community, which I guess is like kind of, you've made me realize that's kind of like the main thing that it is. It's a Discord community that like creates stuff. That link and all the other links that the Creek Masons depend on are at creekmasons.substack.com.
It's awesome.
Perfect.
All right. Well, Geoff, thank you so much for coming on here today. This has been a great conversation, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank you for, waking me up.
Well, I hope you enjoy your hibernation, and with this coming out in the new year, I hope you have a beautiful, abundant, healthy, incredible new 2024.
Yeah,
Can't wait to
you
see
as
our
well.
little partnership, our community partnership grow and
Yeah.
blossom together.
Yeah, let's not drop the thread of that conversation. I think we need to get like all of us together to like figure that out, because one of the things that we talked about was maybe having like a Creek Masons contingent at the next Hot Alien Summer Camp.
Yes.
That
Absolutely.
You're reading my mind.
super fun. Yeah. So let's get to planning. I'm into it.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
All right. Well, thank you
Wonderful.
everyone for listening today. Happy New Year, and here's to a great 2024. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Love you.
Blessings all around.